Bullies humiliated a couple in front of their kids, not realizing they're former CIA operatives. He, the loudmouth who humiliated a father in front of his own children, couldn't face that man again. Because in that instant, Ricky knew. He knew everything had fallen apart because of the very people he thought were weak. He realized he had picked the wrong enemies. Enemies who never had to raise their voice to destroy him. What would you do if someone mocked your family, right in front of your children? Would you stay quiet, or would you show them who you truly are? It started like the kind of Saturday that families remember fondly. A crisp breeze rolled through the trees of Willow Creek, the small town where nothing dramatic ever happened, or so everyone thought. Cal and June McMillan packed the car just before noon. Toby begged for extra candy money. Lacey, in that stage between child and teenager, sulked quietly with her earbuds in. To any outsider, the McMillans were just another modest American family. Cal worked maintenance at the school. June volunteered at the library and sometimes baked for church events. No one ever looked at them twice. But beneath the surface, under layers of ordinary, lived a past no one in Willow Creek could have imagined. That day, the town was hosting the Autumn Fair. Booths with caramel apples, hay rides, a ring toss near the fountain. It was a simple joy, the kind people chase after all their lives. As they walked in, Cal kept his right hand resting on his lower back. He always did that when he was scanning. June, ever soft-spoken, tugged her cardigan closer and whispered something to Toby that made him laugh. They blended in, until they didn't. It happened near the lemonade stand when they were waiting in line behind a group of loud young men, maybe 19 or 20, loud enough to demand attention, brash enough to think they owned the air around them. Ricky, the leader, wore mirrored sunglasses and a smirk that never left his face. Behind him, Brent chewed gum like it was a performance. Dalton filmed them all with his phone, narrating like it was some kind of comedy sketch. They noticed Cal first. "Hey, slow down there, Gramps," Ricky said, nudging his friend as Cal stepped forward slightly. The others snickered. "He looks like he fell out of a Civil War reenactment," Brent added, loud enough for the people behind them to hear. Cal didn't move. He just looked at the lemonade stand menu. June reached for her purse calmly. Then they turned their attention to her. "Wow, Grandma brought out the quilt fashion today," Dalton laughed, panning his phone camera toward June's cardigan. "She probably made that in '82. Brent cracked, or stole it from a scarecrow. Toby's expression froze. Lacey, burning red, tried to step away, as if disassociating from her family would make it stop. Still, Cal and June said nothing. Ricky stepped closer, now emboldened by the laughter around them. "You raising your kids to be just as boring? Gotta be rough when your parents look like a history documentary." Someone from the crowd laughed. Someone else filmed. It wasn't just mockery anymore. It was public humiliation. Lacey's fists clenched at her sides. "Dad, say something," she whispered. But Cal's eyes weren't angry. They weren't frightened. They were focused. He shifted slightly. His weight moved to the left, subtly adjusting to put himself between Ricky and Toby. June exhaled slowly. Her hand grazed her wedding band, a tic she used to have during stress missions. Still, they didn't respond. They just watched. That silence unsettled Ricky more than he expected. The smugness flickered, but the crowd had already decided this was entertainment. He had to finish strong. So he leaned forward, looked Cal straight in the eyes and said, "Hope you enjoy your lemonade, Grandpa. It might be the last thing that doesn't embarrass your kids." Cal finally blinked. Not fast, not surprised, just done calculating. June placed her hand gently on Cal's arm. "We're ready," she said softly. Not to him, not to the bullies, to herself. They stepped out of line. Not a word spoken. Lacey was furious. Toby was confused. Ricky smirked like he'd won something, but he had no idea. Because that moment, that single moment of humiliation, was about to change everything. The ride home was silent. Toby played with the zipper on his jacket. Lacey stared out the window, her earbuds in but not playing music. June sat with her hands folded neatly in her lap, eyes watching the trees go by, her mind clearly far away. Cal drove with both hands on the wheel, something he only did when trying to stay in control. When they pulled into the driveway, Lacey spoke first. "That was pathetic." The words dropped like a bomb in the quiet car. "You just let them laugh at us. You didn't even try to stop it." Her voice cracked, not just with anger, but something deeper. Shame, disappointment. Cal parked but didn't turn off the engine. June turned to face her daughter. Lace, what happened back there wasn't about us. Oh, really? Because I'm pretty sure it felt exactly about us. About you. About him. She pointed at Cal. You let them humiliate us in front of the whole town. Everyone saw it. They filmed it. Toby spoke up, voice small. Why didn't you say anything, Dad? Cal looked at his son. That boyish face searching for strength, for protection, for a hero. I wanted to, he said quietly. I used to say a lot of things. And do worse. That night, the kids didn't eat dinner. Lacey locked herself in her room. Toby sat on the couch, still in his jacket, watching cartoons without laughing. June found Cal in the garage. He stood beside the old chest they never opened, the one from their old life. He was running his fingers along the edge. Maybe it's time, he said. She didn't argue. That night, after the kids went to bed, Cal and June talked until past midnight. Memories surfaced like ghosts. Missions that never made the news. Friends buried under false names. Villains who didn't just bully, they massacred, trafficked, and corrupted. And they stopped them all. Together. But they'd made a pact. No more violence, no more shadows, no more looking over their shoulders. Until now. Because this wasn't just about pride. It was about legacy. Their children had seen them fall. Not physically, but in dignity. And that was something neither of them could accept. The next morning, Lacey woke up to the smell of pancakes. That was normal. But what wasn't normal was seeing both her parents already dressed, backpacks packed and calm. Too calm. Toby rubbed his eyes. Where are you going? We're just stepping out, June said, kissing his forehead. But we'll be back before dinner. Cal ruffled Lacey's hair. Don't worry. We're not mad. We just needed a little walk. No one suspected that walk would include a trip to a locked storage unit on the outskirts of town. Inside, under a tarp, were files, laptops, burner phones, disguises, a locked steel case, and 2 weapons, cleaned but untouched for over a decade. June reached for a brown envelope. Ricky Colson. Let's see who he really is. Cal booted up the old laptop. Brent Holloway, Dalton Mears. They think they're invisible online. Within an hour, the investigation had begun. And this time, it wasn't about country or orders. It was personal. Because when you hurt a soldier, they remember. But when you hurt their family, they never forget. By Monday, the video was everywhere. Someone had uploaded it to TikTok with the title, Boomer Couple Gets Roasted at Willow Creek Fair. The comments were brutal. Y'all see the grandpa shuffle? She looks like she time traveled from 1942. Why'd they even bring kids if they can't protect them? Lacey saw it first. A girl from school sent her the link during math class, followed by a row of laughing emojis. By lunch, a group of kids was mimicking her dad's limp across the cafeteria. She didn't eat. She didn't even cry. She just walked out and didn't come back to school for 3 days. Toby stayed quiet. He stopped playing video games. His drawings, once filled with color and dragons and rocket ships, now showed shadowy figures and words like, why, and go away. Meanwhile, Ricky, Brent, and Dalton became mini-celebrities. They uploaded a follow-up video mocking the cardigan, reenacting the fair moment with exaggerated voices and clown wigs. Ricky even wore a fake limp in one clip pretending to be Cal, falling over dramatically. They laughed, their followers laughed, but Cal and June, they watched and waited. Because while the boys mocked online, Cal had already retrieved Ricky's juvenile court records from a federal contact. Charges sealed, but not forgotten. Assault at 17. 2 weeks in juvie. Expunged with a slap on the wrist thanks to his father's political connections. Brent? He had an online footprint that stretched a mile long. Memes, violent posts, underage party footage. He'd bragged about hacking the school system once to change his grades. June traced the IP in under 30 minutes. Dalton was sloppier. He filmed everything, including a clip from 2 weeks ago, showing him shoplifting at a gas station with the caption, "Free snacks are the best snacks." He thought tagging his friends made him untouchable. He was wrong. Still, the McMillans said nothing publicly. No threats, no warnings. To the outside world, they remained quiet, passive, embarrassed. But to those who looked closer, the shift was starting. Lacey noticed it first. She caught her mom texting someone in code, short strings of letters and numbers she didn't recognize. She saw her dad in the garage muttering to himself, assembling something that looked like a drone but wasn't. "Mom, what's going on?" June looked up from her laptop, her eyes soft but unreadable. "Do you still feel ashamed of us?" Lacey hesitated. I don't know. I just want it to stop." June leaned forward and touched her hand. "Then let's make it stop." Later that night, while the house slept, June sent 3 packages. One to Ricky's father's law office, one to the principal at Brent's college, and one, anonymously, to a local investigative reporter known for exposing corruption in small towns. Inside each envelope, documents, photos, and a simple message: "What they did is bad enough. What they've hidden is worse." And as the McMillans waited for the fallout, the world around their bullies was about to begin crumbling, piece by piece. It started with Brent. One morning, he showed up to his shift at the electronics store and found his manager waiting, arms crossed, holding a printout. "Care to explain this?" she asked, shoving a photo into his hands. A screenshot of Brent at a house party, holding a beer in one hand and making a gesture in the other that no corporate policy would ever tolerate. "I didn't post that," he said, eyes wide. "Doesn't matter. You're in it." Brent was fired on the spot. And later that week, his college issued a notice of suspension, citing conduct violations pending review. Next came Dalton. His probation officer, Mr. Rollins, showed up at his job at a tire shop, not with a warning, but a warrant. The footage of Dalton stealing gas, along with timestamps and precise location data, was enough to violate the terms of his early release. "You think filming your own crimes makes you smart?" Rollins said coldly. "It makes you easy." Dalton tried to call Ricky. No answer, because Ricky had problems of his own. An anonymous envelope had arrived at his father's law firm. Inside, a transcript of Ricky's sealed juvenile assault case, and a recent video of him mocking Cal's limp. That video was now circulating online, juxtaposed with his record. Someone had sent it to the investigative reporter from the Willow Creek Weekly, and she didn't miss the story. The headline dropped on Friday: "Privileged youths mock disabled man while hiding violent pasts." It went viral. Ricky's dad panicked. "Do you know what you've done to our name?" he shouted. But Ricky wasn't listening. He was too busy scrubbing his social media, deleting years of posts. Too late. By Saturday, protesters had shown up outside his family's office. Sponsors pulled back. The community, the same one that had laughed days earlier, now looked at Ricky like a virus they needed to isolate. Meanwhile, the McMillans, they went about their lives. Cal returned to work at the school, where suddenly people treated him with a new kind of respect. Cautious, curious. June's library events began filling up again, and the cardigan, it became iconic, a symbol of quiet strength. But what no one saw was the final act, because June wasn't done. There was one last envelope, one last piece of evidence, a video, never published. Shot at the fair, but not from the bullies' phones, from above. A drone cam, high resolution, stabilized, recording every detail of the mockery from start to finish, complete with facial recognition tags and GPS tracking. She sent it to Ricky's college board with one sentence: "This is who you're giving scholarships to." And while Ricky sat alone in his room, his inbox exploding with threats, his future slipping away, Lacey watched from the living room, stunned. "You did this?" she asked. June looked at her daughter, her voice calm. "No, they did this. I just made sure the world saw it." For the first time in days, Lacey smiled. Not because someone got hurt, but because someone finally fought back. And the best part? The McMillans never even raised their voices. Ricky's college revoked his scholarship within 48 hours of receiving the drone footage. The footage, now leaked to the press, painted a picture no amount of money or legal pressure could erase. A young man, mocking a disabled father, laughing at his wife, humiliating their children, and doing it all with a criminal past buried just deep enough to seem clean. Brent, meanwhile, was summoned to an academic hearing. The committee listed his online behavior, videos, and digital footprints with the precision of a prosecutor. He tried to deflect, blame his friends, say it was just stupid jokes. But the university had received a second envelope, one containing screenshots of Brent's private group chats. The language in them? Indefensible. He was expelled. Dalton didn't even get to argue. His parole was revoked, and he was escorted out of his job in cuffs, his mugshot plastered across local news with the headline, "Repeat offender back behind bars after online boast." By the end of that week, the trio that once ruled over the town's social circles had been publicly dismantled. Reputations shredded, futures derailed. Still, no one could connect the dots. The police never traced the tips. The journalist never revealed her source. The college administrators believed the materials came from concerned citizens. It was clean, too clean. And in the center of it all, Cal and June McMillan walked through the storm untouched. Then came the moment that no one saw coming. The town council invited the McMillans to speak at a community panel about digital bullying and generational respect. June wore her cardigan again, the same one mocked at the fair. Cal stood beside her, still limping, still silent, but with presence. They never named names, never pointed fingers. They didn't need to. "We're not here to shame anyone," June said to the crowd. "We're here to remind everyone that dignity doesn't come from being loud or flashy. It comes from knowing who you are and never needing to prove it." Lacey and Toby sat in the front row, watching their parents with something they hadn't felt in weeks. Pride. Pure, untouchable pride. After the event, a local teacher approached them. "I've lived here 20 years, she said softly. "I thought I knew everyone in this town, but who are you really?" June smiled, warm but unreadable. "Just parents, just people who've been quiet long enough." Meanwhile, Ricky was spotted walking through town with his hoodie up, his eyes downcast. His father had stopped taking his calls. His former friends had blocked his number. And the girl he once dated, the one who had filmed the fair incident from a distance, had deleted every photo they ever took together. He passed by the McMillans once, near the grocery store. Cal nodded politely. Ricky flinched like he'd seen a ghost. June whispered to her husband after, "Fear is louder than revenge." Cal simply replied, "But justice, that echoes longer." That night, the family ate together in peace. No phones, no noise, just laughter, stories, and the kind of calm that only comes after a storm. Lacey, curious, asked softly, "Will they ever know it was you?" June looked at her daughter with eyes full of quiet fire. "Maybe, but it doesn't matter. What matters is that you know who we are." And in that moment, Lacey did. They weren't just parents. They were protectors, warriors, legends in disguise. Weeks passed. The story faded from headlines. The protests died down. And new scandals took their place in the town's endless news cycle. But some things stayed different. Brent moved out of state, trying to start over in a community that didn't know his name. Dalton remained in juvenile custody, his release hearing delayed again. And Ricky? He stayed in Willow Creek, a ghost in his own home, slowly realizing that reputation isn't something you build with followers or bravado, but something you earn with respect. And respect? He'd burned that bridge with a single laugh. But for the McMillans, life returned to a new kind of normal. Cal stopped pretending his limp was from an old accident. He started telling the truth. Not all of it, just enough. Enough for his children to understand that strength isn't always about striking back. Sometimes it's about knowing when not to. June went back to hosting book clubs, quietly, humbly, but with a sharpened clarity in her voice. The cardigan stayed in her wardrobe, not as a statement, but as a reminder that pain doesn't define you, but how you carry it does. Toby smiled again. Lacey walked with her head held higher than ever before. One night, while tucking Toby into bed, he whispered, "Are you guys like superheroes?" June chuckled. "No, sweetie, just parents. But you stopped the bad guys." She smiled, brushed his hair back, and said, "We just made sure they stopped themselves. And maybe that's the most powerful kind of justice there is. Because this wasn't a story about revenge. It was a story about legacy, about dignity, about protecting the people you love, not with fists or fury, but with silence, strategy, and truth." The McMillans never needed to shout. They just needed to be seen. And in a world full of noise, that silence echoed louder than anything else. And if this story touched you in any way, tell us in the comments. What would you have done in their place? Have you ever stayed quiet when you should have spoken out? Or spoken when silence would have said more? Your voice matters, and we want to hear it.